Right, well, Sting, Andy and Stewart, making up Police, welcome to Countdown and welcome to Australia.
Hello.
Hello, Australia.
First of all, can you just tell us, well, Andy, a little bit about the group itself?
Well, there's four of us. Oh no, there's one missing. There's three, and we've been together just over 2 years now. We are having most of our success in England at the moment. We've had success in America, and we're working here on tour now to try and consolidate.
Now, how hard has it been sort of for you for the first year, to sort of like, you know, with so many groups around?
Well, I don't know. We've been very lucky. The first year together was very difficult. Like virtually nothing happened. The ball really started rolling for us when we came to America just over a year ago, last October, and we had initial success here in the clubs. And Roxanne was released, and the ball started rolling quite quickly, and that. That success bounced back to England, and it just took off very quickly after that. We're having a great time.
Now,
Not again.
Control yourself. Sting, how do you sort of see music in the last 2 years before we go on to the last 10 years?
It's been a very exciting time when everything has turned around and changed, and a lot of old faces have sort of been scared to death by the new groups. It's a time where a new group can come out and make some new sounds and be accepted almost instantly. It's a nice time to be making music, and I just hope it doesn't close up too quickly, because it will do.
Well, was Roxanne Sting initially structured as a single, or was it just a track off the album?
Initially structured as just a song, and then we didn't actually realise its potential until our manager came and heard it, and we freaked out, and we were sort of puzzled by his sort of enthusiasm. And then the more we listened, the more we thought, God, this is good. We didn't know. We didn't know it.
He wasn't really our manager until he heard that, because in the very beginning we were kind of regarded as a bandwagon punk band, and we never were a punk band. We wanted to play to the new wave audience, just the new generation of kids who happened to be punks. And when Roxanne came out, it was very clearly showed that we were nothing to do with punk, but we were definitely a new group.
Well, listen, like with the 70s, I mean, they've been playing, you know, like it got to a point where groups seemed to be playing stadiums and no one was seeing them or anything like that. You are one of the groups that have brought it back to playing small gigs and playing close to audiences. How important do you think that is, Sting?
Vitally important. We're not afraid of playing big places. In fact, we sometimes do. But it's nice to keep your sort of finger on the pulse, as it were, and you can do that best by playing in a club where the audience is like 3 feet away. It's really helpful to sort of get your head together. You know what's happening then.
Well, like with Message in a Bottle and the new album, does it frighten you now slightly that you have become so big in such a short period of time, Stewart?
No, it doesn't really, because we're rather irresponsible about our popularity. Our first album was a hit album, and many other groups, I suppose, would have tried to duplicate their first hit and have another hit, but we didn't, and we went in with an irresponsible attitude towards it. We just wanted to make another album that was different, and it turns out that that's a hit too. Our third album will take some more chances, and maybe that won't be a hit, maybe we won't be lucky, but we're still after just making good music.
Well, with the success of, say, Roxanne, Can't Stand Losing You, and then the album itself, how much pressure was put on you as guys to sort of come out with the second album?
We were very lucky, actually. For some unknown reason, we seem to have created quite a good amount of trust with our record company, and they really didn't interfere with us at all when we went in to make our second album. They just very sort of politely turned up at the end and freaked out over everything we'd done, and they just gave us a free hand, which was really almost unheard of. And
it was very nice, them politely foaming at the mouth and everything.
They politely foamed at the mouth and said this is going to be a worldwide smash. And
pressure that comes from inside. We want success. We want to be successful. We want to be the biggest group in the world, basically, and that's where the pressure's from. Not from outside of audiences. It comes from here.
Left. How's it been going?
It's been great. We've discovered parts of America that nobody's ever seen, I think. Really, it's like that.
We put up a British flag and everything. We're taking them home with us. We're establishing colonies here and everything.
Right.
The gig in the Everglades was lousy, though. It's a load of crocodiles.
Yeah. Pretty snappy audience, though.
I'm interested, actually, to find your reaction to the differences now between the English music scene and the music scene here in America.
They really are different.
Yeah.
Humongously different.
Define them.
Well, America's really huge, so things happen more slowly here. And the trends that happened very suddenly in England, that's to say, the punk revolution in England, happened overnight in England, and the punks just swept up the country. But in America, it's
Sweeped up the country.
America is so much bigger that city by city it's slowly spreading, and finally it's got to the point where the Knack are on top of the charts.
Right.
And the Knack aren't necessarily bona fide new wave. There's nothing really new about them. They're just another sterilized group as far as my personal taste in music goes. But the fact that they're considered to be new wave and they're number one in the charts means that America has come to the realization that the new wave, even if it isn't really all that new wave, something that's tagged new wave is on top of the charts, which means that it's commercially viable, which means that it's opened up the doors to America.
Right. To what extent has it opened up the doors, though? I mean, how much?
Well,
British
the
music
records
is
that
gonna
are
come
considered
through?
new wave can now be programmed by the radio stations. They're not afraid of the new wave anymore. In fact, they're getting into it. There's a station in Miami here, which I've been listening to. There's advertising a new punk club opening up, and it sounds just like they're advertising toothpaste or something. Yeah, you can get down and you can pogo yourself crazy down at the new wave club with Judy and the something or other.
So radio's still pretty sterile, this thing, isn't it?
Radio's awful. It's got worse over the past 6 months. 6 months you could listen to it. Excuse me. I'll be back in a minute, Mum. The radio is like so computerized and so standardized. It's worse than American television.
It really makes you appreciate good old anti-beeb, where you get one thing which no one ever really considers, which is variety. The American audience, they tune into their rock station, and the rock stations play only rock. The soul stations play only soul.
Right.
And every kind of station plays one thing which its audience can count on. Therefore, when you stay tuned into a station, you don't get anything. And so, but the one thing you're tuned in for. So they talk about here, they piously talk about how much they hate disco. Well, none of them have ever heard Sister Sledge or Boney M or, all these groups that they're slagging off. Some of them which are really good. But nobody really knows what they're talking about because they're all into one kind of music and they're very narrow-minded in that respect.
Because the other thing that's very interesting in England right now is the fact that, like, ska, bluebeat music is forming the foundation again of a lot of, like, the two-tone bands, Selector and
Oh yeah, they
stuff
haven't
like
hit
that.
over here yet, but I'm
They
telling
haven't hit
everybody
over
that.
here. But I mean, you've got a strong sort of reggae feel in some
Yeah.
of the music that you play.
Well,
haven't
this
you?
is something that's happened time and time again. The Americans, because of what I was just describing, they don't know what they've got. All those white kids out there don't listen to the black stations and don't know that the only real good music that America produces is black music, and they're missing out on it until it gets to England, where BBC plays everything from the Sex Pistols to the soul groups and just everything. Every charwoman in England has heard the whole thing. The point is that I've forgotten what the point is.
The irony is that, they've found reggae acceptable over here when it's being played by a white group again, which is the same as with the blues thing that happened in the 60s. And they haven't really looked to the source.
So now, both the albums have been basically fairly simple, haven't they, in terms of their production? I mean, are you going to continue with that
Well,
more
we
basic?
have no,
We don't have to do anything.
we're not committed to any policy as such.
Our new album, Regatta, is actually more sophisticated, more complicated. There's more recording procedure involved, but it took us less time to record. We're just much better at it. We know each other musically, and so we can get our ideas across and work things out much faster because we've dispensed with a lot of the waffling around. So although we spent less time on the new album, we actually accomplished more on it.
And just at the moment now, Sting, in a few days' time, in fact, Quadrophenia has its premiere in New York. Now, you're also involved in another film project, weren't you, recently? David Bowie, too.
I did a movie called Radio On, which was directed by Chris Petty, who's a contributor to Melody Maker. It's a film that's very sort of arty, and that you have people sort of sitting in rooms together for half an hour without anything going on, but it's a very good movie. Atmospherically, it's brilliant. The music is by David Bowie and Kraftwerk, and I sing a song called 3 Steps to Heaven. It's a really good movie.
Is that the old Eddie Cochran song?
Yeah. The character I play is a garage mechanic who's obsessed with the idea of actually being Eddie Cochran. It's a very interesting movie. Not a commercial movie like Quadrophenia, but certainly it was well worth doing. I'm very proud of actually being involved in it.
When did you do that?
I did that last January at Chippenham, where Eddie Cochran was killed. And this guy works in a garage just along the road where Eddie Cochran was actually, where his head came off in his car accident.
Do you enjoy filmmaking, Sting? I mean, are you going to do more in the future?
He didn't enjoy
Yes.
the part where his head comes off. No.
Yeah, he lost his head over that.
Yeah.
Filming's great. I mean, it's the ultimate. Being a film star is a dream. I want to do more movies. I want to do one this year. The offers are coming in thick and fast, and it's hard to sort of sift through them for a good part.
Yeah, just tell me, because part of the tour itinerary now, as it spreads ahead of us, you're going to India.
Well, we're actually going to be playing in Japan in the second half of February, and that's going to be either the start or the end part of a sort of Far Eastern tour in which we're going to take in India, Greece, Istanbul,
Egypt.
Taiwan, Egypt.
The point is that
Hong Kong.
we can travel so cheaply that we can actually do these places. They're not major markets where we're going to shift lots of units or anything. We can just go in there and play the gig. We've got 3 of us and 3 road crew, including so that's 6 people on the road. And so we can afford to play these places, which can't generate lots of money, but they're fun to play. And we can also shoot a bit of our own movie there too.
Yeah, right.
Score a few rupees, you know.
Yeah, that's right. A few bales
Chip
of
off a bit of
rice and
Taj
stuff
Mahal.
like that. Yeah.
So you'll be over in England now. When does the tour start?
About the 12th of December, as far as we know. You know, our plans we change a lot, but that's in the works at the moment. We
We're
hope we
touring
can
the social clubs in the northeast,
Yeah.
Sunderland
Like,
and
hit a few
Gateshead.
pubs.
One place I'm glad we're playing is the Hammersmith Palais.
All right.
That's a really neat venue. It actually holds more people than the Odeon, which is something that's interesting to find out because it's a much better place to see
More
a group.
atmosphere, yeah.
It's a
much
shame that
better
nobody
place.
ever uses it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so rarely used, but it's a fantastic place to play. So we're
I
very
saw the
pleased about
specials there,
that.
and it's just a really good place to see a group.
Right. Well, best of luck with the tour
Thank you.
and with the new single too.
Shucks,
And thanks
Bob.
very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Regina, Saskatchewan played host to the hottest band in the world. The Police, currently on a world tour which is taking them through Western Canada, have sold 7 million records in 2 short years. And their latest album, Zenyatta Mondada, has already shipped platinum in Canada. I had the pleasure of meeting the British trio backstage in Regina. Drummer Stewart Copeland, guitarist Andy Summers, and Sting, lead singer and bass player for the group. The music that skyrocketed the Police to fame is heavily reggae influenced, but the group has managed to develop its own unique sound that's put them in a category all their own. They don't like to be labeled new wave or anything for that matter. They use their sound checks as a time to develop new material. Opening for the Police on this current tour are XTC, the British group who last year topped the charts with Making Plans for Nigel.
How come you teamed up with XTC for this particular tour? Any reason that you
a
chose
name
them?
that's short enough to go on the posters. You know, we could have had Renaissance or Quintessence, one of those bands, but it's too long. XTC for short. Fits into a space that size.
Because for a while there you were saying that you really had this thing, you know, helping other bands, younger bands.
Well, that was in the early days when we were idealistic and dishonest. Now we're just honest.
Actually, the real reason is that their BO quotient is lower than most rock groups, so we can stand being in a bus with them for a whole tour.
Oh.
Isn't that terrible?
That's really terrible.
Yeah.
Are they coming to Toronto with you too?
I hope so. They're actually one of our favourite groups, which is why, I mean, we spend a lot of time with them, so we have to like them and we have to enjoy their music.
There's something cozy about the Police camp. Both band and road crew are friends. And although fun may appear to come first on the road, the group has a good sense of business, and the guys are handling their careers with shrewd business know-how. The philosophy is to keep things simple and inexpensive. Crew and equipment are minimal, and a lot of the traveling is done by bus, a basic style that is translated in profits of millions of dollars. The tour the Police are currently on will eventually take them to South America. Last year's world tour took them to the Far East.
What's been the most incredible place that you've been to so far? What's really...
Bombay really is so alien.
Did you go riding on elephants?
Did we? No, we didn't. Camels?
Did you?
Oh, we rode camels in Cairo, in Egypt, and Arabian horses around the pyramids.
Where do you sit? Like just a two-humped camel?
Well,
I always wondered about that.
A camel has a hump, a dromedary too. I can never remember which way round it is. Can you?
No, I can't. But what was that like?
You sit on the back on this thing. I mean, you get on it and they're high to start with. Then it goes all the way back, and then it gets like its high legs and it comes all the way forward, and then you fall off.
How does your family feel about this? About the fact that you're such extraordinary superstars?
Which family? My mother and father?
Well, yeah, okay, let's start with your mother and father. How do they react when you come home, or did you ever go there?
I go home.
I heard it depresses you.
It depresses the hell out of me.
How do they feel about it? Depresses the hell out of them?
Talk to them about it.
My mum always asks me if I like a cup of tea.
And my mum wants me to get a proper job.
Yeah. My mum says, well, why don't I get my haircut?
Why don't you get a proper job? Why don't you become a teacher? Why don't you work in an office? Why don't you be a civil servant? Shut up, Mum!
What about your wives and kids?
Haven't got any.
You've got a wife.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Oh, yeah, all right. My wife, my 7 kids, my 3
No, you've got 1 kid that I know.
Why are you asking these questions? You know.
I want to know, because I want to know what it's like to be married. I guess I should ask your wife. I mean, how does she feel?
Married
Obviously,
to an
there's
itinerant.
all these young things drooling all over you. I mean, is that a threat for your ladies?
They like it, I think.
Yeah.
We're encouraged in our erstwhile activities.
But touring the way you do, you probably don't get to see them very much.
No, we don't.
So how do you feel about that?
I feel pretty duff about it. I like my wife and kid, actually. So this is a sacrifice we have to make too.
Yes.
But it's not forever, you know. We don't have to do this forever, do we?
Well, that's not in our contract.
You look absolutely wonderful.
I feel stunning. What can I tell you?
Any words to your admiring public in that get-up?
Well, I got it from the Salvation Army, actually, but it does suit the part rather
Looks
well.
like it's real silk.
It fills me with missionary zeal.
You'll never
Check
be able
the
to wear
pockets.
anything else.
Hey, I've been ripped off, man. There's no pocket in there.
You have to pay extra for these
You can
pockets.
try it on if you like.
Now look at this. You look rather dashing
Stuart is
yourself,
modeling
Mr.
the green
Copeland.
and yellow look.
This is the cucumber and lemon.
They've always said that drumming was a very physical kind of trip to do, and you're dressed for it.
That's why I play in boxing gloves.
Why do you have that on your? What's that do? That black?
It's
tone?
for the S&M freaks. Hello, we're the police.
And you're watching...
Oh, Countdown 81.
Police, and that was da-da-da-da, and I have the 3 of them in the studios here.
That's very well done.
Sting,
Well
Andy,
said.
Stuart, welcome to the show.
Practicing.
I have been practicing actually. The do-do-do-da-da-da-da. Yeah,
I mean, in
I
New
couldn't
York,
spit it in a fit in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now listen, coming from New York, and as I said that night I saw you at Madison, and then the next night at the Ritz, you're now sort of playing, or you're forced to now having to play big gigs. Do you like, the big
Yes,
outdoors?
forced.
Well, I mean, literally
Well,
you
it
are,
just
aren't you?
causes so many problems if we don't do big gigs.
Yeah.
If we do little gigs only, then everybody has to camp overnight to see us play, or they have to spend $200 from the ticket scalps and stuff. So we've
Right.
got to cover the demand.
If there's a demand for 25,000 people to come like last night, isn't it ridiculous to play in a little club that only holds 100 people?
Right.
And where we can on these occasions, we try and balance it off to keep things in perspective. But I mean, it would be...
Well, yeah,
practical.
I mean, let's take the New York thing. You played at Madison over 20,000 people. Next night you play for 2,000. Is it that your perspective that you want to keep into, like just because you want to keep playing to small venues?
Yeah, so in a way it's symbolic. It says that we're not above doing this. We haven't got to the point where we would never go and play a small club again.
Right.
And also, it's nice to also get the feel of playing in small places as well, because it's quite different from playing in these very large arenas.
Well, doing that in New York is also symbolic. I mean, when we played in Argentina, where we're not you know, the top group.
Right.
They're still getting into the Beatles there.
Right.
No, and we have to start from the. There are still places in the world where we have to start from the bottom, where we still play small places. So we haven't forgotten how to do
I
it.
believe your film clip's pretty simple. I mean, they're, you know, very basic in the sense you don't really worry about, you know, sort of giving a concert type performance in your film clips.
We're just terrible at miming. We're the worst mimers in the world.
Well, I mean, the schoolroom scene, you know, with the cloaks and that sort of, you know, which you'd sometimes wear on stage. I mean, where do those ideas come from? Are they your ideas or producer ideas?
I think it started right from the start. We try to make a virtue out of a sort of throwaway performance, because a lot of groups try and do a whole production and every nuance or every word of the song is acted out, and ours is to go the opposite way.
They only
It's
take
a sort of
10
a minimalist
minutes.
approach, really.
Listen, getting back to the film clips, again, the simplicity of them, I mean, do you insist on that? Because, I mean, at one stage there was a story where you never really wanted to ever go into television studios or anything, you know?
Well, I don't know if that's true. I think it's a very real danger to overexpose yourself. If you start being on every TV show, I mean, familiarity breeds contempt. You just become too familiar to everybody. But, I mean, our approach to videos, like anything else we do, isn't rigid and formalised. We could suddenly start doing, you know, acting out every single word in the next videos in the future.
Right.
Anything could happen, you know?
Yeah. Listen, the last time you were here, you went off to India. What was that? What was that concert like? Was it a good buzz to do that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Greatest concert of certainly my career.
Yeah. I mean, were they aware of the records there? I mean, was
No.
No.
But we're going for this.
Yeah.
They did just
They
come
turned up
out.
to see a Western rock group, and they just come out of curiosity because they'd never seen one before.
Right.
It was a wonderful experience.
And what was it like, sort of, for instance, having to sort of go on your first world tour like you did last year? Sort of, you know, going to so many places. Was it? I mean, a lot of people find it grueling. Some people find it really, you know.
Well,
it's
traveling
amazing.
we're all used to. But it's just the strangeness of the places.
Yeah.
Was very good for us. It rekindled our joy in traveling.
All right, that was Clark Kent. And Stewart, I've got to direct this question to you. Can you just tell us a little bit about this?
About the film clip or about Clark Kent?
About Clark Kent.
I've been trying to figure out Clark Kent for years, you know. He's really very difficult to understand. I suppose his history has been recounted many times, you know. Books have been written, movies have been filmed. He's a young Hungarian ballet instructor who was trained by the CIA to accept vast quantities of information at high speed in binary code. He can plug his fingers into a power socket and his hair goes slightly frizzy, but he can learn things very quickly. His works of poetry have been translated into many different languages and stuff, but nobody can really understand him.
I've learned something today, I guess. Listen, getting back to the group itself and laying this one on you, Sting, in the interview that you did in New York the day after the Madison Square Garden concert, they more or less said that you were going to sort of not quit the group, but spend a fair time away from the group. Well, this article said this. And said
Sting is quitting the group, I'm quitting the group.
Oh, right, and you were going to go into a film career.
All three of us are quitting the group.
Well, wait a minute. One of us, I'm quitting first.
Got to stay first.
I'm quitting first. If I'm going to quit right now.
I've got to ask you this. I mean, obviously, we were talking about pressure in New York, about albums, etc. Is it going to be another album this year, or
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I mean, we're planning to record one in the summer.
Right.
That's the plan.
When we finished Australia, we're going to disappear for 6 months.
Right.
And so we're going to disappear for long enough for people to start saying, whatever happened to the police?
Well, I mean, it's the newspaper articles in London, Lord knows what they'll conjure up.
We're saying it now.
That's what I'm trying to say. We're playing in Australia. Well, I mean, what's wrong with Australia?
We're here.
I mean, what's wrong with
There
us?
is certainly nothing wrong with Australia, I'm sure you're right now. And the other thing is, which a lot of people are screaming for now, which happens to everyone, is a live album. Is there any chance of that?
Well, we've been recording a lot of concerts.
Yeah.
One more studio album first.
Right.
I mean, we've got enough stuff recorded to put one out.
Right.
It's a question of when.
Well, best of luck for the rest of the tour.
See you in...
I must say, you're one of the
buildings.
easiest groups I've ever interviewed in my life.
Oh, really?
And there's still no truth in the rumour that you're leaving and solo albums and all of this.
Can't say.
Right.
It's all lies.
Okay, well, it's time to say goodnight. Good night,
Good
Stewart.
night.
Good night.
Andy, Sting.
Which camera are we saying goodnight to?
That one over there.
Good night.
It's Good Night
Good
Australia.
night, number 2
Good night,
camera.
Australia.
今素晴らしいアルバムデリアッターモンだったが世界中で話題になっている上り調子ピークを極めた感もある素晴らしい人気のポリスにダイレクトインタビューレッツゴー
Give it a good bit of jerk, that guitar sound.
Dr. Rhythm, that's me.
Hi, police. I'm sorry to disturb your sound check. Hi, Stewart, Copeland. It's just 1 year absence thing.
Yes.
ということでもって、how's your condition today?
Konnichiwa. What? Oh, my condition?
Yeah.
Same as usual.
いつもと同じ頑張ってるよということですけども、彼がスティングということでもってリードボーカルとベースです。スティング、I've heard that you're like a bass sound that is lower sound you like from your childhood. Is that right?
I like bass noises because you feel them in the whole body and they vibrate.
But your vocal voice is rather high tone. How do you feel about your vocal voice?
I'm trying to
yourself?
sing low, but I can't. You see, I have to sing high.
でっかくね歌っていればやっぱりこういう声になるということです。OK、スティングさん、とっても素敵なベースプレイヤーであり、リードボーカリストであり、そしてキーボードプレイヤーでもありますが、このキーボードの上ちょっと見てください。とっても What is that? What is this? These combats and
Sumo wrestler.
Sumo wrestler.
Soldier. A robot. A pig. A Smurf. A tortoise here. They're my mascots.
もうキーボードの上にマスコットがいっぱいということです。OK, see you later.
I have another mascot.
Yes, another mascot.
It's called Andy.
Mascot, yes.
Yeah, マスコットボーイだそうですけれども。
Nice hair, Andy.
Yeah. ということで、彼がリードギタリストのアンディ・サマーズです。Nice to meet you, Andy.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, many of our interviewers always asking you about your latest album. But I want to ask now, what is the meaning of your latest album title, Zenyatta Mondatta?
Somebody told me today that it actually means something in Japanese. They did. You know, I was told that in Japanese it means we don't get the money anymore. I don't know if it's true, because to us it means nothing. We make up titles to confuse people.
I see.
So you have to make your own meaning for it.
I see. そして、ドラムスです。Stewart Copeland. Hi, Stewart. Nice to meet you. Welcome to こんばんは。
こんばんは。
Yeah, 元気です。How about you?
Good. Genki. Yes.
さて、彼に聞いてみたいのは彼が中心人物というふうに目されておりますので Why did you decide your team name Police? Why?
Because it's a name that nobody would ever forget. I can't answer this question anymore. I've answered this question so many times I can't even remember what the original reason was. I have to keep making up new ones, and I've had to think up so many new reasons that I can't think of anymore.
レゲエを体に取り入れてですね、非常にいいサウンドをやってくれています。それじゃあ、一番最後に、OK, Sting, come here, and Andy, please come here. And, さあ、一緒にですね、それじゃあ3人で、ヤングオーの V サインを言ってみましょう。OK, here we go, the call sign of ヤングオー。OK? OK, here we go, ヤングオー。というわけでした。ポリスでした。
Sting, need I ask, how are you?
I feel a lot better than I did yesterday when I had a very high fever and I couldn't get out of bed. But as you can probably hear, my voice is still not there. Yeah. It's not the voice that thrilled thousands.
Yeah. And you're bitterly disappointed, obviously, at not being able to work.
I'm absolutely depressed. I mean, purely selfishly as well. I want to come here and work. But I'm also very sorry for everybody who's bought a ticket and hasn't been able to see us. I really feel responsible. A lot of people have lost money, a lot of people have been let down, and it's all because of this thing in here. I feel sad about it.
Is this the first time this sort of thing's happened?
No, it's an occupational hazard with a singer. It happens about once every 6 months. You get a bug of some sort, and it goes straight for the weakest point, which is the throat. It can be just a cold, or like this was a flu, and there's nothing you can do about it because your voice is strained all the time, and working does it. And you just have to lay off for a few days.
Well, you know, many people think of you maybe wrongly as being the sort of figurehead of the band, and this sort of emphasizes the point in some ways, you know.
Well, there's no show without punch, as they say.
But Police without Sting?
There's no Sting.
Tell me, just as at one point, often wondered the name Sting, where did it come from?
Oh, the name Sting is very old. It's about 10, 11 years old now. I used to play in a Dixieland jazz band in Newcastle, my hometown, and I used to wear a pullover that was black and yellow hoops, and the trombone player decided I looked like a wasp, so he called me Sting, and the name stuck with me. My mother calls me Sting, so it's pretty official.
The seal of approval. You know, with someone with a sort of a jazz background, how difficult is it to sort of be assimilated into the rock scene?
It's not so much difficult as being useful, and that if you come from a different area of music and go into another one, you bring a different emphasis, a different knowledge into it. I think one of the reasons the Police are so successful at the moment is because we all come from different areas, and we're a rock band, but we have different styles at our disposal, so we can do a lot of things, and I think that helps. If you've just been in a rock group all your life, what do you know but the old cliches? I mean,
presumably before you did get in a rock band, you had preconceived ideas about rock music. Have
I
they
didn't
changed
like
much?
rock music. I've never been a rock music fan. I've always wanted to be a serious musician. I'd never actually aspired to the position I'm in at the moment, which is pop star, I suppose is the word. I never wanted to be that. It's just happened by accident. But now that I'm in it, now that we are a rock group, I feel it's an exciting medium to be in. I'm very concerned about pop. I think it's now in the hands of intelligent people, whereas before in the 70s, pop became a dirty word, and you had the industry just using it to make money, and the pop stars we had were just plastic, manufactured. Now we've got sort of more intelligent, the better musicians doing it, like Costello, like Nick Lowe, Joe Jackson, the Police. These are people who would have shunned pop 10 years ago. They would have been making albums. But now we're into making singles, and making singles for a mass market, and I think that's healthy.
It's still obviously a profit-orientated business, though.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not shunning commercialism. If anything, I enjoy the game. It is a game. You put something into the game and you get something out of it. And you look at the charts every week, and it's like a league table. It's like football. I enjoy that. Not just for the means for making money. I'm not that interested in making money, but I enjoy the fun of being on the charts, the fun of trying to beat the other groups. And in that sense, the commercialism of it I like. And I also enjoy trying to figure out, when writing songs, what will sell. It's interesting too. What sort of song will sell to millions of people? It's interesting.
Sting, I'd like to sit and talk here for quite a while, but I think it would be unfair, yeah. So thanks a lot for those few words, and I hope you make it in the Australian scene.
I just hope we can come back to New Zealand fully voiced and give people their money's worth next time. I'm really deeply sorry we couldn't do it this time.
Look after yourself anyway.
Bottoms up.
The Police wound up their Synchronicity World Tour in front of 50,000 people last Sunday in Melbourne. This was Australia's biggest ever international rock concert and the last Police concert for at least 2 years. And now acting as Master of Ceremonies, the beat of the Police, the extremely well-versed Mr. Stewart Copeland.
Performance by the famous Royal Australian Aboriginal Kangaroos, who will be performing the Balalaiki dance as indicated in Rachmaninoff's third movement of his famous symphony dedicated to Horatio Algernon, who, as we all know, was a great culinary expert who designed incredible high-tech analog versions of spaghetti mix.
Stuart, welcome again to Countdown. This time in Melbourne at a most amazing site.
What a great day.
Yeah, fantastic. Now listen, the last concert for 2 years, they say. Is it going to be?
Well, 2 years, 3 years,
yeah.
6 months. You know, we tried it before, as a matter of fact.
Where did that decision, was it a joint decision by the three of you, or what?
Yeah, it was. You know, various times, various ideas have come up for work for us to do, you know, like, you know, mix the live album or do this show or that show.
Right.
But we've kind of you know, we think about it because we're in a good mood now. We're feeling very positive, very optimistic, and we're getting along well, and band morale is very high. So we're kind of ready to kind of take on stuff, but then we think, no, and we pull back, and so we have no studio time booked, no concerts booked, nothing booked.
It just seems amazing of where, I mean, there's always the old saying, you should always go out on a high. Well, I mean, there can't be a bigger high. I mean, the album Synchronicity 2, but I mean, Synchronicity has been an amazing success. 4 Grammys. I mean, and all of this.
Have you figured out what they're for yet?
I think it's 4.
We know there's 4 of them. We don't know what he got them for.
So, and there's no recording, no nothing. Are you going into some individual recording? Yeah. Can you tell us about it?
Well, you know, it's I'll tell you about when I've done it. You know.
All right. Well, listen, you've given us great pleasure.
Good.
Over the years.
You've given us great pleasure.
You've had some weird titles that us people have had to get our tongues around, I might add, like Synchronicity 2 and Regatta and do-do-do-do-da-da-da. I've got it this time, yes. Okay, Stewie, let's have a look at your new single, King of Pain.
Sure.
And a good show tonight as well.
So long and so forth.
There's a little black spot on the sun today.
Well, Andy, welcome to Countdown. Again.
Great to be here.
Thank God you've got simple song titles, that's all I can say these days.
Yes.
Right, listen, we spoke to Stewart before. It seems incredible that a band that started off for such a long time ago as sort of like a band that was in England, unknown in America, hailed as one of the great English bands, and then you make a decision to decide at the pinnacle, I'd say, at the moment, to call it a day for a while.
Well, I think we should clear up this point about calling it a day. You know, we're not really calling it a day. We've been on the road for 7 years. We've been on the road currently for 7 months without a break. This is the end of this tour. We just think it's time for sabbatical.
Right.
See, to really keep the group alive, or any group really, you have to take time off at this point to you know, rethink what you're doing and think about music.
Has it been relentless as far as living is concerned? I mean, you've brought out album after album, and none of them have been a failure. Has that been a sort of relentless part of everyone demanding for you to do something else?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, we created our own monster.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think we all have a sort of workaholic nature individually, but the group collectively has always wanted to make it very much, and try to better what we've done before. But that makes people want you to keep on doing it, and then you find you've kind of created a vicious circle, and somehow you have to get out of that so that you can kind of find a new way of coming back at it.
Was the decision made about having a break before you released Synchronicity or after? Because I mean, Synchronicity has been an amazing success for a lot of reasons, you know?
No, I think that we sort of, I mean, planned to sort of make this album and do all the world tour that would be right for it and give it its best shot, and then take some time off. I mean, actually, you know, on this point, we are planning to go back into the studio in December of this year, which is not that long, really, is it? It's only, I mean, 8 or 9 months, 10 months now to make a live album, and then we'll see after that.
Well, so, as I say, thanks for coming on the show. Well, it's nearly the end of the show, and it's about the start of your show, the final for 2 years. I've spoken to Stewart and Andy. It seems hard to believe.
What did they say?
They said it's, well, they sort of went around it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very emotional tonight. I mean, it's not up for it, you know, and I don't know how I feel.
Right. Now, I mean, like, going back to when I first met you, and when the English press were hailing you as the face of the 80s, I know you used to hate that sort of publicity, but a lot have fallen by the wayside since then. I mean, like, perhaps the Boomtown Rats. The police just kept going from strength to strength. What do you think has been the real success of the three of you?
I think we had something in depth, you know. It's very easy to have an initial success just on the surface level, but once you get underneath, you've got to have something there to last, you know. And I was watching Elton John last night, and he's got that kind of quality and depth, you know, and he'll go forever. No, so I hope we do.
Well, it's funny, I mean, just looking at you last night, I hadn't seen you for a while. With all the publicity that you individually got, is that hard to cop and to live up to? Or did you just turn your back on it?
I don't really take much notice of it, you know. I don't sort of scan the newspapers for stories about myself, you know. So I tend to ignore it. They're not writing about me, they're writing about some manufactured...
But it was pretty strong, wasn't it, the press, the way they...
terrible.
Yeah. So what for the next 2 years then?
Oh, lots of different things. Lots of, you know, might get a job on a milk round or...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Acting? What about that?
I've just got a great movie.
Right. I won't ask you that. All right. Listen, as I say, I've had a lot of fun over the years. You've given me, and I know a lot of people in Australia, a lot of enjoyment, and indeed the world with your record. I just want to say congratulations.
Thanks, Willie.
This is Jackson Square, the heart of the French Quarter of New Orleans. And it's here in these quaint and luxurious surroundings that the Police based themselves in the southern half of their recent American tour. 1983 was the most outstanding year for the Police, another #1 single and album in Britain, but their most outstanding accomplishments in the United States. The longest-running #1 single of the year, Every Breath You Take, and the #2 selling LP of the year, Synchronicity, which came in just behind Thriller by Michael Jackson. They sold literally millions of dollars worth of tickets on their 2 tours of the United States, including a great triumph at Shea Stadium. It seems, as one year begins and another ends, that it's a fine time to look back with Sting, Stewart, and Andy on their outstanding 1983 and to speculate on what lies ahead for the Police. Some years for some groups show progress to another level. Some years are just marking time, staying at a level. Stewart, I have gotten the feeling that 1983 for the Police was moving to another level. But is that the way it feels from the inside?
Well, during that year, we didn't actually release an album or anything, so we were getting ready our next step.
No, this is
1983.
This is 1983, Doc. Last year was 1982.
Didn't he explain to you in great detail that we are sitting here in New Orleans in 1984?
We did release a record in 1983.
You did release a record in
Yes, that's
1983.
true.
Synchronicity.
It's a very confusing
That's right, it was
question.
called Synchronicity.
It was a good album, too.
The score for a Coppola film, of course, Rumblefish,
Yes.
which should be opening in Britain soon. It's another Hinton novel. There have now been 3 of those done. What attracted you to that particular project?
It wasn't so much the project itself as the director, Francis Ford Copeland, who made some of my favorite movies, and an opportunity to go and work on a big Hollywood film. He also was going to give me lessons on how to make a movie, too, which he did. I learned a lot about that. What I learned was that it's a big a big production, and I'll be ready for that in a few years. But it was mainly working with a great big director and watching how real movies are made. The only experience I've had is like videos, which is very different. That's not real Hollywood.
Did you write the music before you saw the film, or did you score it after to the footage?
I went down to the rehearsals when they first started rehearsing the story with the actors and everything, and picked up the atmosphere of the film and started writing then. But the music was all recorded after the film was finished. Some of it was done during the thing. In fact, during the rehearsals, I had a drum set up. While the actors were acting away, I was banging away on the drums. It was like real avant-garde theater or something like that. But then again, Francis is an avant-garde type director.
Was the video of one of the songs from the film related to the content of the film?
Yes. In fact, it's yes, it is. It's the end. It's the end of the movie with all the titles, And it in fact, it's a bit too literal. Having done that song, it seems like it touches on too many points in the film, and in fact, it's a bit too literal.
Stage right, Sting. Now you've completed last year a role in a film which is due to be released in December of this year, and that is Dune, science fiction film. Would you play a nasty character again, correct?
Well, I mean,
He does it every day.
he has some good points. He's kind to animals.
You've been scoring a film, I'm told, called Goose Foot, is that right?
Well, that's going to take place next year, actually. Oh, this year, I should say, 1984. Yeah, it's supposed to start in April in Ireland. I play the role of Politeness Man. No, I don't! But I'd like to. Yes, there's a mystery thriller that takes place in Dublin. And I play a guy who commits suicide, actually. It's a barrel of laughs. Cool.
And Sting dies in your next film, I gather, in June.
In his next movie, I die. No. Yes, I get bumped off.
Well, we all have to go sometimes. Sometimes it's on celluloid.
You have had a very nice, well-publicized and well-received launch of your book of photos called Throng. And I gather it took you 3 years to assemble this collection?
Lay the eggs, as it were. Well, I shot the pictures for about 3 years without absolutely having the book planned. In fact, what happened was in February 1983, I went to New York and put the book together. So that was when it was made, in terms of actually putting the whole thing together. Yeah, I shot for about 3 years.
One of my favorites from that is the very strange picture of a horse and a man in the ocean together.
What can I tell you? We arrived at the beach and there was this man walking in the sea with his horse, and it was a very surreal moment. And the horse is looking very frightened in the picture because I'm right up to it with the camera.
If we can call Sting back into this, and referring back to your solo chart record, Spread a Little Happiness, Spread a Little Warmth, I gather, is what you're doing at this point.
I'd like to spread a little warmth.
Yeah, I like the record very much, but I was particularly taken by the video because there are long shots in sequence which suggest that you had very few actual shots. In other words, that you did your dance steps as a routine rather than stopping and starting. Is that so?
Yeah, I did about 6 weeks of dancing with a man called Charles Organs, who's now known as Mr. A in England. And we worked out a routine. It was a nice thing to learn to do, to tap dance and muck around like Fred Astaire. It would come in useful one day.
He almost got the jump on the police, didn't he, with Don't Care?
There he goes. He's out there. He'll come back soon, you know, within the next few thousand years. Actually, Clark Kent is with me always.
Well, I still have his 10-inch, and if he'd like it back...
Not too many people have his 10-inch, as a matter of fact, because the people who own that particular name and any form of it with any spelling of it landed on that like a ton of bricks. And so production was halted suddenly with that particular product. And that's why there are so few of them in the record store shelves.
Unfair.
Do you mean the Superman people?
That's
DC
right.
Comics?
That's right.
Can't Stand Losing You from that was the first struggling single in Britain, but in America it was Roxanne that took off. Sting, records break in the States differently than they do in Britain. How did that one grow out?
I believe by accident a DJ in Texas happened to have our single on his desk by a complete fluke, a coincidence. He played it, he liked the record obviously, and it got what's called good phone in America, where the listeners phone in their responses to records, new records that are played, and it got extremely good phone, forgive the expression. And a success like that is contagious, the radio station next door. In fact, it was WLBJ, which was owned by Lady Bird Johnson. That was the radio station. And the station next door heard about this phenomena, and they started playing the record, and it spread from there. And it started to break out in San Francisco, I think, and Boston. So it kind of happened like some kind of disease.
You still do the number in the set, so you must have a fond spot for it.
I think it's probably my favourite song.
After that broke back in England, Stewart, Can't Stand Losing You went to number 2. All of a sudden what had been so hard to break was easy to break. Did that tell you something about that market?
Well, I remember somebody outside Dingwalls, who was one of the early times where I was recognized, by somebody in the street saying, "Oh," and they're after having recognized me, and I was feeling, well, hey, a big star now. He says, "Well, pity didn't make it to number 1, then." So that was one of the first bitter fruits of disappointment, but we came back.
Well, you sure did. Message in a Bottle and Walking on the Moon were number 1s. One that didn't get to number 1, you had trouble with over the video, and that was Invisible Sun. Now, Sting, I know you were quite upset about that, weren't you?
I was upset, but I also expected it, in a sense, because I think the video perfectly matched the sentiments of the song, and it was, it had integrity, I think. Whether or not it got on top of the pops, I know it sounds like sour grapes, it was immaterial.
Performance in Birmingham, Alabama, the other night, and it seemed to me that in less than perfect conditions, at least acoustically, the audience didn't mind at all. They were perfectly happy. Has it reached the stage where they're indiscriminately glad to see you? And is that a problem for you in terms of motivation?
They are probably going to enjoy the concert anyway to a certain extent, just because half of it is they want to actually see in the flesh and so on. But that's not what really gets us going. There's degrees of it, and what we really have to do is turn them into hysterical, raving fanatics when they leave, and we just have to work harder on them anyway. So there's a certain amount going for us anyway. There's a momentum of enthusiasm that we pick up on when we walk on the stage. But in fact, that's inspiring because we can just take it and take it further. And it varies from gig to gig. I mean, every concert, everyone's screaming and shouting, but at some they scream and shout more, and scream, it's relative, I suppose.
I think it's more important to have fun yourself, because that translates to an audience more than please enjoy us. You know, if you're having fun, if you're enjoying what you're doing, then that translates much better to an audience, and they enjoy you. It's a kind of circular thing.
So you haven't lost the enjoyment of facing a large crowd?
No, I love it. The larger, the better.
Now, whose idea was it to go to the scene of the Beatles' former triumph?
Mine. No, you're supposed
Well,
to say mine at the same time.
What do you mean?
It was actually our agent.
Oh, Shane.
One of my many brothers, one of the clan, who figured we could do it.
This
and
is
everyone
Ian.
said, nah, yeah, this is Brother Ian. Everyone said, no. But his record is good with that. When we played Madison Square Gardens, which was another of the stepping stones, he was the first person to feel that we were ready to do that as well. And in both cases, we sold out within hours. And so I suppose it's a matter of timing. That's what an agent's talent is all about, is timing, where to put the group and what exactly the next step is, which hall. Because which hall you play is not just a matter of how many people you play to, but there's kind of a prestige thing to it as well. And I suppose he gets the main credit for thinking that we were ready for Shea. And he was right.
You could have done a whole week of shows then, by the response.
How oversubscribed was it?
Well, it sold out totally within 5 hours, and that's 65,000 people.
That's the record for that. That's never been done before.
That raises the question, what does one do next time?
Kennedy Airport.
CBGBs.
It must actually raise a serious question.
Well, it is, yeah. What can you do except repeat former triumphs? You can't really, can you?
Difficult to follow the euphoria that occasion created in the band itself. You know, it was like climbing a mountain, being at the top. I can't imagine a scenario that would be better.
Well, also like climbing a mountain, every time you get around thinking you're at the top, you see another peak ahead of you. And that's always been the case so far. When we played Madison Square Gardens, we thought, well, what next? And many times during our career, we've thought we've hit the top. And only to discover that there are still higher peaks to scale.
Everybody